The first quote I want to pull from Meditations is, "Self-reliance and an unequivocal determination not to leave anything to chance." So Marcus Aurelius starts out Meditations with different reflections on people in his life who have had a positive influence on his attitude, his perspective, and the way he lives. And so this quote talks about the importance of taking what I call radical personal responsibility, meaning that whatever happens to you in your life, saying, what can I do to make sure that I am playing as much of a role as possible in the outcomes of my life, rather than relying on other people to get me what I want, relying on chance or fate or good fortune or whatever it is that you call it, rather than relying on that, figuring out what I can do to get to where I want to go. I think this is really huge in marriage because it takes away some of that responsibility that we tend to place on our spouse, maybe fairly or unfairly, but that removes some of our own authority and our own ability to make a difference in the relationship. So if we're able to absorb more responsibility and take on more of the load to improve our marriage, it seems like a heavy burden at first, but it actually ends up making us feel a lot more confident, a lot more capable, because we are embracing the fact that the only person who can do things for us is really ourselves. We can't make anyone else do anything. We have to do it ourselves. Quote number 2, "What he said was also what he thought, and what he did was done with no ill intent." So this one boils down to extreme honesty. So saying what you think, and not necessarily saying everything you think, but if you're asked a question or if you're going to speak, it should be aligned with how you actually feel, what's actually going on in your life, and what's actually true. And the second point of that being doing things with the goodness of other people in mind. So doing things for the benefit of your spouse as best as you can. Essentially, having good intention. So sitting down and thinking, okay, how can I clean up my language with my spouse? How can I speak in a way that's more truthful, but that's also more compassionate, that's more kind, that the underlying motivation behind what I'm doing is actually for the goodness of my spouse. And this can be a really difficult conversation to have with ourselves because everyone wants to feel like what they're doing is motivated by good intent. That, of course, we love our spouse. Of course, we want to do what's good for them. And it can be hard to embrace the fact that sometimes we don't behave in a way that we think is going to help our spouse. And other times we actually behave in ways that we know is not going to be good for our spouse when we're angry, when we're frustrated, when we're tired, whatever it is. But cleaning up our language, cleaning up our behavior so that whatever we're contributing to the marriage is positive for the other person and that it's aligned with the truth. Quote number 3, "Not easily is a man found to be unhappy by reason of his not regarding what is going on in another man's soul. But those who do not attend closely to the motions of their own souls must inevitably be unhappy." So this is one of my favorite ones. This one really has a wonderful reflection in the Bible verse about noticing the speck in your neighbor's eye, but not noticing the log in your own eye. In other words, noticing the flaws in other people's souls or their character before we're able to or willing to look at what's wrong with us. And this is an incredible quote in terms of its application to marriage, because almost without exception, every couple I've ever seen come into the marriage therapy office ready to tell you as the therapist exactly what's wrong with their spouse, exactly all of the bad things that their spouse has done that have negatively contributed to the marriage up to that point. And very rarely do you have people come in and say, look, I screwed up. I cheated, I lied, I betrayed my spouse's trust in some way, I've, been a jerk, whatever it is. Very rarely do we come into a situation that's unideal and say, well, this is how I contributed to it. Most often we are very aware of what other people have done wrong, but less aware of ourselves. And so if we can flip that script and not necessarily ignore everything that our spouse does wrong, because I think that can prevent some progress made later down the line. But if we can start off with what we're doing and attend to our own souls and our own shortcomings, chances are we're going to be a lot happier, not just because we're going to have the opportunity to start improving ourselves, but because we will weight so less heavily the flaws of others in the outcomes of our lives. That's important because we can't control what other people do. And so if we're letting other people so negatively influence us, occupy so much of our headspace with ruminating about their flaws, that's going to make our life worse in a way that we can't control. Quote number 4, eager generosity and perfect openness in the case of those that came in for his censure. So this one's incredible. This has been my challenge recently in my own marriage, is trying to embrace the idea of not just accepting criticism from your spouse, but actually being enthusiastic to get it. So obviously you don't want to be a doormat and not advocate for your spouse to treat you properly and to speak to you with respect and kindness when offering you criticism. So the criticism should be constructive, and if it's not, that's something you guys can work on together. But once your spouse has criticism for you, actually being fully ready and even a little bit excited to get that criticism and start implementing it in your life and trying to adjust the way you are around your spouse or the way you talk to your spouse to be a better spouse. And the reason this is incredible is because when you are able to receive your spouse's criticism positively and say, you know what, you're right, I'm going to try to work on that and be patient with me. I'm not perfect. It's going to take me a little bit of time to break this habit or implement a new one, but I promise you I'm working on this. That completely changes the game, because now your spouse goes from somebody who's nagging you or who's constantly complaining to you to somebody who's trying to benefit you, who's trying to help you become a better version of yourself. So every criticism turns into an expression of love, an expression of care in your mind. This is how you're receiving the message, and you're going to end up being a lot happier as a result. And it's not going to have anything to do with your spouse. It's just going to be a change in your own attitude and your own mindset. And this is really the key in Stoicism, is that you aren't trying to change other people. You're changing internally. You are accepting the reality of your situation. You're embracing what your life has to offer right now, and you are choosing to have a constructive, helpful attitude and mindset about it. And the ironic part is, even though we're trying not to change other people, or we're just putting that to the side and that's not a goal, when you change how you conduct yourself, it's going to inevitably change the way people respond to you. If you're more positive, if you are calmer, if you're more kind, you're more intentional in how you talk to people, if you're more honest, if you're braver, that is going to inevitably change the way other people relate to you, because a relationship is made up of two people and the space between them. So when you change one person, the relationship in that space fundamentally changes too. Quote number 5, that which does not make a man himself worse than before cannot make his life worse either. So this is a big one also. These are all huge, but I love this one because it really simply boils down to the concept in Stoicism of the quality of your life has everything to do with how you react to the situations you're in, how you react to the people that you come across, how you react to what happens to you. It doesn't have to do with your external circumstances. It has to do with how you react to them. And so that doesn't mean that you think everything is equally good or equally bad. That doesn't mean that if your spouse gets sick, then that's as good as if your spouse were healthy. Or if you lose your job, then that's equally good or valuable or desired as if you kept your job or got a promotion. Of course, that's not true. But those things, the more you can minimize their impact on your quality of life as compared to the impact of your attitude towards them, that brings within control how you live. It brings within control how happy you are, how satisfied you are with your life. And the more peaceful and accepting you can be of your circumstances, the more stable you're going to be, the more capable you're going to be of actually changing those circumstances later. And that's something that I talk about a lot, is that the first step to improving is actually acceptance. You have to accept where you are right now, because if you are going to lie to yourself about the situation you're currently in, you're not going to be able to get where you want to go, because you don't even know where you are right now. But if you can accept what is happening today, you can plot out a course to get to where you want to be. But that requires that you focus more on how you respond to your circumstances than the circumstances themselves. Quote number 6, does then the truly beautiful need anything beyond? Nay, no more than law, than truth, than kindness, than modesty. Which of these owes its beauty to being praised, or loses it by being blamed? This is a tough one. This largely boils down to our constant need to be recognized for the good that we're doing in our marriage. Can you do good things for your spouse? Can you take out the trash? Can you do an extra load of laundry when you weren't asked? Can you help with the kids more than maybe you consider your fair share? Can you do these things and not require recognition for them? That's a really big test of our love for other people, is if the good things we do for them, we do contingent on being recognized for those things. That's not love. Love is giving freely and expecting nothing in return. If your spouse loves you, your spouse is also going to be giving freely to you without expecting in return. And so ultimately, you guys do get a lot from each other and you get returns for your goodness. But relying on that recognition in order to do the good things puts the power in the hands of other people and of your circumstances. Again, this is about realizing that you don't need your spouse to do things for you in order for you to be better. You can control that. You can start making a change today without anyone else changing around you. You can be kind and you can be honest and you can be dedicated to your marriage in a renewed, strengthened way. And you don't need your spouse to even notice it for it to be good. The good in those qualities and in the characteristics you're trying to adopt, that's objective good. You don't need recognition in order to know that that's right. And so if we can do what we know is right without other people telling us it's right, that's when we've taken in more power to ourselves, more autonomy, and are going to be able to have way more control over the quality of our lives than we did before. Quote number 7, try to live the life of the good man who is more than content with what is allotted to him out of the whole, and is satisfied with his own acts as just and his own disposition as kindly. See how that answers. This is about seeing what your happiness, your life outlook, your relationships, your health, whatever it is, seeing how much better those things can be when your main focus is on becoming a better version of yourself. So if you can be more honest, you can be kinder. If you can worry primarily about your own character, the way you think, the way you speak, the way you act, if you can worry about those things primarily and let go the concerns of what other people are doing, particularly your spouse, how much better could your life be? How much better could your day-to-day existence be if the goal was just to become a better you? And again, this is a byproduct of Stoicism, because Stoicism is about focus only on what you can control. But when you end up doing that, it does change other people. It does change the marriage. It might not change it as fast as you want. It might not change it in all of the ways you want, but it will change. So as you change, inevitably, your relation to the world around you and the people, and particularly the person closest to you, your spouse, that will change too. So at this point, Marcus Aurelius is basically saying, just give it a shot. See what would happen to your life if you start focusing on being a good man, a good woman, a good husband, a good father, or a good wife, and a good mother. Okay, guys, I hope that video was useful. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for all things related to building a lifelong marriage. And just a reminder to share this video with anyone who you think could really benefit from its message. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know the sort of content you guys want to see. I'm Cameron, and this is Modern Marriage.